Hello, welcome to a live stream on our new backer shelf sitter. Just making sure everything is in the picture here. This is going to be live. We're going to be building this thing. I'm Chantel with 141 Design Company. You're just seeing my hands today. And we have a brand new shelf sitter piece. Let me show you that we've put together that'll fit the Tiny Town cross stitch patterns from Heart and Hand. This is the one that I have finished. And today we're going to build the piece. We're going to finish this off. We're going to talk about sizing. We're going to talk about paint and all sorts of things. So welcome and thanks for joining if you're here with a live. And if you're here on the live stream, thanks for hanging out with us. Okay, so I'm going to put this away. I will, let's get started here. Like I said, I'm Chantel with 141 Design Company, and these are the two. This one has sold out in our Etsy shop, but we do have Christmas Tiny Town is available in our Etsy shop, so you can pick that up. And it goes along in conjunction with the new display stand that we have put together. The stand, let me move my parts and pieces out of the way here. The stand looks like this when it's completely built. It does have a few pieces to it. It is not complicated. I just thought a quick tutorial would be nice to have for backup, so you have something to refer to. I'm showing you the sides, the pieces. This is the actual stand that it mounts on. This is the board. Mine is all ready with some fabric on the press-on board, which has been mounted to my board. And this will fit into the slots right on the side like that and like that, so that when it's on, this is, you're looking at it obviously from the head top view here, but when it sits on your shelf, it's going to sit there and display your piece this way. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a few things during this live. So this is going to take a while. So again, thanks for joining. We're going to talk about the pieces that come with your display piece. We're going to glue it together. We're going to paint some of it. I've got some paints here. I've got one that's already halfway painted. And then we're going to talk about the size for the mat boards. And I'm going to back this up just a little bit to give you a little more room of my table here. Is that better? So we have more room. I just still want to be able to see what's going on. Well, hi, Pat. I have some people joining us. It's good to see you. Have you join us here, Pat? The stand will come with three long strips here. This comes with a few pieces here, so I think there's maybe 8 altogether. Comes with 3 of these. That's going to make up your base pieces. Comes with 1 insert, and it comes with 2 of your V-stands that are not notched and 2 that are notched. We're going to glue these pieces together first, and I'll walk you through that. We're going to set our insert board aside. The way, when I glue, I use, there we go, quick and thick Titebond to glue these together. This is a wood glue. It is a water-based glue. And we're going to glue this piece to that one and this piece to this one. When you have them, just so that you know you've glued them to the right sides, if you set them on your piece, I think I'm going to mark them for you, but if I haven't marked the boards for you, I want to show you this is how we're going to lay them together. So we're going to put our outside pieces down first, and our inside pieces will go on top of those and on top of those. And you can see how you've got this longer notch right here. We want the longer notch on the insides so that when our stand is standing this way, they're on the same end. For these are slots for the other boards to go through. So let's go ahead and glue those together. Like I said, here's our quick and thick. We're just going to put a little bit on each side. I'm putting it on this piece, the one with the notches versus this one, because then we won't have glue where the notch is. And we're going to line that up perfectly. You can see the edge of that. Give it a little press. Quick and thick dries very quickly, obviously, thus the name. And it's also a very thick glue. It does dry clear, but if you have big globs, you're still going to see the globs. So you want to kind of wipe off any edge and just get that all lined up nice and neat. All right, then we'll do the other side. While they're drying, I do like to kind of keep an eye on them because of the fact that they dry so quickly. In case they slide, we can get them corrected before the glue sets up. And see, I'm just gonna clean that up. I do usually have wipes on hand so that I can clean off any edges and things like that, which we could do that instead of just my fingers. I'll be a little more legit today. Usually I just wipe everything on my fingers. Oh, then it probably ends up on my pants, my jeans. Yes, I am that person when I craft. Just wipe it wherever. Okay, we can clean up the glue using a wipe. Now you've noticed that I'm putting this together before it's painted. I found that it was easier to just build the stand and then paint it after it's built. I painted another one this afternoon. Let me show you that. Just black. The other one I showed you had distressing. This is just using spray paint. So I built the entire stand and then I set it outside and just spray painted it and put some clear coat on it. While I'm letting those dry, I'll show you the products I use to do that with. I use this can of Krylon Fusion all-in-one. Oh, there, that's better to help you get the ring light out of there. It is a matte black. And then this can of clear acrylic coating, I use Deft from time to time too, but this one I picked up at Hobby Lobby. Is that clear acrylic coating. Those are the products I sprayed that with. And see, those are already dry. So our next setup is going to be putting the bottom pieces on. So we're just gonna put some glue in the crevice, just like that. And then we're gonna stand it. And this is gonna kind of squish out a little bit. You can see that. See how it's lining right up? Set that one in there. And set this one in here. These I'm gonna hold on to until they set. And then we can come back in and clean up the paint or let it set up for just a minute before I put the second one on. We're going to paint. The other board that I'm using today is the insert. So we're going to talk about that while we're letting that glue dry. We are going to paint this one using the linen technique. So I'll be demonstrating that. And I already went ahead and did a spray paint of black on the back side of this one. With a longer piece of the maple veneer board like this, I do like to go ahead and prepare both sides the same way. So I painted the back of that one. So when we paint the front now, it'll stabilize it to keep any warping from happening. These are also great to go ahead and you could decoupage them if you'd like with something else. I will show you the finished one. If you are putting a mat board on, this is how much of an edge you will actually see. So this mat board that I chose to put on is cut right out to the edge. And I will give you the finish. So you're not going to see a lot of this. So it might be, I think, probably just best to paint them. And you could probably spray paint them. Like, I don't even know. We're not going to see the linen technique on this one very much because I'm putting that mat board on there. But I'm going to use it to show you that technique today. But really, these boards would be nice and easy just to do a spray paint. This one I've painted using the tarnished silver Bungalow 47 furniture paint. I'll give you an idea of what that color looks like. It's like just a nice dark gunmetal gray. I did brush it on, so you can see there's some brush strokes. And then I used the 120 sand paper, just some sand grit, to distress and just kind of buff out the edges of it. And I went ahead and did all of it. This isn't something that, we're distressing, based on where it was handled or anything like that. I just distressed it for the definition of it all. So it's defining that. Let me get my arm out of there. Sorry, just putting it on the other side. So this is pretty good on that side. Let's go ahead and glue the other one. It's a little wet still. Glue the other one together. Some glue in my corners and into the pocket. And we're just going to hold those until it sets up. Whoops, knock that one right off. Taking a minute today. I can go over a few other things while we're waiting for those to dry, and then we're going to move on to painting the base, or the top of it, and then we'll finish the pieces. Now, we talked about the baseboard for the press-on. This is the size of the press-on board, is 14 by 4 for that base layer. This works out very nicely, and this is where I kind of stopped the sizing and based the sizing on this, but bumped this out just a little bit in case you were doing individual pieces that you'd like to put on here. But 14 is the full length of the press-on board. I'll put that right here. So that's why that was a good dimension to go with, because these are in their packaging still, but you can see this is the mounting board that I use, and I buy the 11 by 14 size. So that way cutting this was pretty easy. I used a rotary cutter, but you can see the 14 was the full length on that board. So that's our base layers measurement. And then the measurement for the piece that I'm going to mount the stitch onto is 13 by 3. And that will go here. My stitch is done on 14 count Aida. I shouldn't show it to you. You guys, this, oh my goodness. I like it. I'm very happy with it. But I stitched this whole thing. You know how it is when you have a cold. I stitched that whole thing when I wasn't feeling my greatest. And so, yeah, I made some mistakes. There's things that are different colors that are not supposed to be those colors. And I was just winging it all over the place. But I'm happy with it. It turned out cute. We're going to finish it up today. So, okay, there's our base. It needs to set up just a little bit more. So we're going to set it aside and let that continue to dry. And move on to painting our top board. Here's our insert piece. In the shopping Etsy shop, these come sold separately. So you can get the base and the insert as one piece. And then if you want to purchase additional inserts, those are sold separately. So that is something that you can get more of them if you want. If you want to mount one on each side, this is probably your stitch is probably gonna hit that backboard, but I think it will be fine. So you might be able to get away with using 2. Now, to do this technique, this layered linen technique is what we're going to do. Even though I'm not gonna be able to see very much of it, I wanted to incorporate that in the tutorial today while we were painting, just so that I can show you that. I use this particular brush. It is called a chip brush, and you can see they're kind of nasty, and just to use a little bit, but it gives me a lot of texture. I also just use 2 colors of paint, and I mix them and blend them. This is Farmhouse Sink White from Bungalow 47. This is the Tarnished Silver. They've been sitting out for a little bit, so they're even kind of, do you see how thick that is? Dry. If you let your chalk paints sit out a little bit, they dry and make it really nice to work with when you're creating texture. So I'll dip a little bit into my paint, and you can just squeeze some out onto a paper, onto a paper plate. And we're going to do a dry brushing. Let's do this direction first. And we're going to dry brush our paint right on. We're not covering it completely. We're just dry brushing one direction. And the other. We'll get the ends. We'll get some more. We're going to end up blending these eventually, but right now I'm going to use this brush to put some white on there. Again, that same technique. It's just a little bit on the end of the brush, and we're just hitting. We're only using the top of the brush and hitting it. You can put some on the side a little bit more and go drag your side brush this way. I kind of like to use the tips, so that's what I do. Either way, it'll work. But I like to just kind of hit it with the tip and just go back and forth. Up and down the board. Let me show you that, what we've got so far. We're building our base layer. Everything's gone this way so far. Now we're going to come back, put a little bit more on here, and we're going to go this way. Because the paint's so thick, it's also making, we're using brush strokes as our friends today. So it's making lines. Now that's looking a little white, so now we're going to get some of the gray. Get that in there. I did the same thing with the purple house, and I've used it with orange. So you're gonna, it's just a technique. You're gonna get a different look depending on obviously what color you're using. But some of these colors are even starting to blend together on the board. And see how now I'm going back across it. And what that's doing is it's creating lines and that linen look in the paint. If I have a very wet, heavy spot like this spot right here, I'm going to avoid that for just a minute to let that dry. And then I'll probably drag my brush back through it. I use the colors straight to begin with to kind of build a base coat. Then I'm going to start mixing them up on my brush. See, like this. So now I've got a little bit of white on it and a little bit of gray on there. And now I'm mixing it this direction. So I'm going to just continue to blend these colors back and forth. And you can watch how this develops. The dogs are in the other room today. But, oh, and UPS is here. That's the issue. See, I'm just kind of hitting these. I'm going to cover that inside, so I don't really care. But it's kind of nice practice. You know, like I know that just the edges of this one are going to be what's showing. We can get some of this paint onto the paper. If your brush gets too bogged down with paint, just knock it off on the paper. Because like I said, we're keeping our brush really light. And see now how I'm getting another color of gray? Now we're mixing the tarnished silver and the white together. That's why you only really need, if you're just doing gray tones, you need a dark, you could have done this with black too. I could have done black and white and just mixed them together and got all sorts of different shades of gray. And then if it gets too dark in one spot, I just come back with just straight white and blend that. It's just a lot of blending, and it takes very little paint. See, it's really, really light. I could have also started with a solid colored board as well, because see, I'm still seeing some of my brown through. So if you wanted to get yourself a good base coat, I could have painted the whole board gray first and then started this process. But I don't mind having a little brown show through if it doesn't completely get all covered. What do you guys think? How's it looking? Not watching through the thing. Let me move my glue over here. Let's get that center. Like I said, this isn't going to show, but it's a good practice board. Or maybe it could show. I could do this and just eliminate that layer of, you know, if I like how it turned out, I could just eliminate that back layer of fabric and just put my stitch layer right on top of it with some palm fringe or something around it and not have two layers completely. Because this does end up looking a lot like fabric when it's all said and done. Okay, now it's starting to just kind of blend together because it's not dry enough. So I come in with a hairdryer and hit it really quick. Not a lot. We don't have to completely dry it. That's enough. Because now it'll still be wet for me, so when I drag my brush through, it's still going to make brush stroke marks. And now you're really starting to see it come to life. Let's get some more white. Watch these white lines go on here. Isn't that cool? And again, it's just paint, you guys. So if you have an area that you decide, I'm going to tweak that spot, it's really easy to do. And we are using just a tiny little bit of paint each time as we go over it. But we don't want it to completely blend because we do want it to be, we want to see the colors, want to see the darks, the lights. So that's why if it's starting to look like all it's doing is just color mixing, then you need to hit it with a hairdryer or just give it a second and let it dry before you keep just messing with it. Because that's kind of where we're getting to right now. We need to like dry this again. Okay, I'm going to dry this, and if you have any questions I could answer, go ahead and pop them in. I don't know if maybe you can't hear me over this, but okay, we're going to do a little bit more, and then we'll probably move on to the next thing. Like I said, this. Oh, that just blended really nice. I'm putting the dark on to darken it up. It was getting the gray was a little too light. I wanted a little spookier looking. So we'll get the heavier, darker color on the top. And then come this way. Now I'm going to hold this up so you can see a little more of the details. See these really stark lines right in here? They're also very thick lines, so they'll create texture, and that's what's creating that linen look. So this is the layered linen paint technique of how I achieve that with just using this inexpensive little chip brush and dragging your paint back and through. Cross hatching is what it'd be called. That's that. And then we can add some, like watch what the white does. Let's go this way. Tone that white down just a little bit. So as you can see, you could do this for as little or as long as you want, and just until you achieve the desired look that you're going for. We're going to set that aside now and pop our brushes in the water, get rid of our paper here, and then work on our fabric. Give me just 1 second to do a little reset here of our spot. Probably get the paint off of my fingers. Whoops, sorry guys. I got the paper under the camera. What was it? Hold on. Sorry. Didn't plan that through very well. But I don't want to get rid of this paint before I bring my stitch over. All right, let's get you reset. Let me wipe my fingers off. So what do you think of the linen paint technique? It's like a faux linen. Again, use as many colors as you want, the darks and lights. Just a really good trick again is to use one dark color and one light color so that you can blend them together and make a slew of additional colors for it. Now we're going to bring this guy into the picture. We've got our Titebonder with our glue sticks and our layered pieces. One of them is the base layer, it's 14 by 4, and the other one is our stitch layer, it's 13 by 3. I am using the press-on boards, and I will also be using some batting and this fabric. Obviously, I did not invent this. These are techniques I have learned watching other designers. So stitching with the Housewives, watch their pieces, Helen D. I'm going to link some of these things in the description box on these things. I watched what they did, decided to try it for myself, and play with the different techniques for this. Fat Quarter Shop also put out one using their tape on how to do these. This is just what I've been doing, and I find that it works pretty good for me, but there's a lot of different techniques, and I will definitely be sure to add more links on tutorials for mounting this cross stitch and your fabric to the press-on boards in the description box below on this. That's what I have for that. So I'm going to set this one aside because we're going to work on our base layer first. Now, we've cut the base layer to 14 by 4. We've got a piece of fabric here. This one is a little bit small, to be honest with you. I like to use a little bit bigger, but it was a scrap I had on hand and wanted to use it again because I really liked the way this fabric turned out. This one I am not going to use any batting for. I just going to peel this. This comes off of here. So we're going to peel that away. And then we're going to, we've got some diamond shapes here in this gingham. I'm going to pick a spot right here where I can line that board up. Might need to go up a little bit higher so I've got a little more room. Because like I said, I usually like to have a couple inches around, but right now I want to utilize this piece of fabric. So we're going to have a little itty bitty tight spot right there, but that should, we can make it work. So then I pull it around and see if I've got it. It's kind of going off a little bit. I don't like it lined up over here. So I'm going to do it again. See if I can do this while I'm chatting with you guys too. I'm going to line it up right down the middle of these. Do you see where I'm trying to line it up right here in the middle of those? So it's like pick a spot in your fabric. Not all fabric's going to have that, but this one happens to. And we'll just see if we got it lined up a little better. That's better. That'll work. So you can see how I'm just kind of eyeballing that. Literally, this was eyeballing. So now what we're going to do is take the glue gun, and I'm just going to put a little bit. I'm going to load it up some more, actually. A little bit here. And push that into the glue. I've had heard lots of recommendations that you may want to have a little cup of ice water. And if you're using one of these, like this is it's an old snack set tray, actually. It's a snack set with a little teacup, but you might be able to use this and just have some ice water in your teacup in case you need to throw your fingers in there if you burn them. My skin seems to be pretty calloused, so I'm okay. But like I said, this is very tight, so we're going to have, it'll work, but it's really tight on that corner. I recommend you give yourself more fabric. Unless you have just little bits of fabric. So we've got all of our corners glued down like that. Now we're going to do these ends that are one side this way, then this way, then these sides. So let's put a little bit of glue. I'm probably over glue, but you know, I got lots of glue. Get that tight, make sure we've got it smoothed out on this edge. That looks good. Move my cup off of here so it quits making so much noise for you. Oh, I probably didn't even get close enough. I didn't. See if I can get that into the glue. See, it's not going to look pretty on that side, but we'll make it look pretty on this side. We will make this piece work. I picked this fabric up from Primrose Cottage Stitches. It's a beautiful, I think I might have seen where it came from, so I will link it because I want to order some more. Isn't it neat? Because this is my last little bit, so that's why we're using it. Then we'll do the side, the ends, and do the same thing. Bring it in like that. And so. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Now we've got to deal with these corners and see how they're kind of bumped. So what we're going to do is I just open up this little end spot if I can, because I got that one kind of glued down, and I tuck a little glue in there. And like I said, I didn't make this up. This is just what I've seen the other gals do. So I'm doing it too, and it's been working. And I just kind of press that down. And I found that, like, if I smush it together with my thumbnails and then push it down flat with my thumb, then it's that tight, and there's a nice little point. Like anything else, the first few, you might fumble with it, just like you probably did when you first started cross-stitching, but you'll get the hang of it. And if you practice with fabrics before you do it with your stitch, you know, if it doesn't turn out, you can just keep practicing. I know you all have plenty of fabric to work with. So just holding it together. Smooth that out. And there's our corner. Anytime if I feel like if it dried up before I could get it smushed flat good, can always take the glue gun and I kind of lay it on the top of this a little bit, and it heat, you know, like I'm not squeezing glue out. I'm just using the heat from the edge of that to kind of melt it back down flat. And that way I can come in here and manipulate it and then hold it if I wanted to hold it flat until it dries. And I didn't add a lot of glue, so it wasn't hot. Let me bring that up. And if you're, you know, want to be really precise, then I would have cut the exact same amount of fabric on either side so that these would have lined up. But we were using a scrap fabric, and that's how I roll. So I figured, why change it up for you guys today? I'm going to show you exactly how I do things and the way I do it. I like to use up the scraps and pieces that I have. The front is what's important. This is going to get glued right onto the wood, so we're never going to see it again anyway. Glue that piece down, and see on the front how it's nice and pointy. And I got one more to do, then we're done with this. Is this how you guys are doing it too? Is this new for someone, or same thing? I want to try the tape that Fat Quarter Shop shared. I'd like to try that. Someday I'll try actually lacing, but these are crafty things that I'm stitching and using, so I find this to be a nice, easy method. There it is. We'll bring our board over here because it's pretty dry. And so we have the linen technique on the back. Ooh, that turned out pretty cool, actually. Look at that. You can see just the little bit of dry brushing. There we go. So that's the base layer and our insert board. Now let's tackle the stitch. Okay, this is a little bit maybe more intimidating for everyone. You can see I don't have very much down here. And usually I would have stitched this closer into the middle of this section, but this had a bunch of modeling down on this end, and I kind of wanted to try to stitch in that spot, and I covered up most of it, but I liked seeing this. So that's where I kind of picked to put my pattern. When I trim this down, we're going to trim one side. I have the other sides trimmed. I trim either a 2-inch or a 1.5 inch piece or section off, if that makes sense. So what I do is I just take my cutter here and I line up I've got 1.5 inches from here to the edge. And I just line it up. I'm not super anal about it. This is not a quilt. So that's that. Of course, I have lost a rotary cutter. And then I cut it with my rotary cutter. Here we go, I covered it up. And just trim off this side. There we go. So now I have my piece ready to mat on the piece. We're going to take our 13x3 and I want to put batting on it. I've done it both ways. I find that right now I'm in a batting kick. You know how we do, we go back and forth, but right now I'm in a batting kick. So we're going to put batting on this board. This is how I do it. I just put a scrap piece down, take the sticky edge off, smush it into it like that, and then trim the edges off. And I just use my rotary cutter. This cutter is one that I use for crafting. It's not super sharp or anything, but it does the job. Try not to cut the cardboard. I'm just cutting the batting just to give myself a trim edge. There we go. It's a little hanging over a little bit, but that's okay. Now last week I shared the next thing that I do is I mist my batting with a little bit of this temporary adhesive because it makes this just kind of sticky. I'm gonna get my stitch out of the way. And how I do it is I take, oh, here we go. I got this crappy little cardboard box, right? And most of the time it fits right in there. So, but I just kind of, that's plenty. That's probably even too much. There. I use the cardboard as my spray booth. But again, it's this temporary adhesive. Just gives that a little bit of stickiness to it. Now we're going to put this on there. I'm not a hardcore measurer. I usually just eyeball it. So I put it on, then I've got to, gonna have to turn away from you guys because you won't be able to see. But what I do is I hold it up to a window so that I can see that I've got it on both sides. Or all around. And I should take a picture of this for you guys to see sometime, but and I eyeball it. So I think I've got it pretty good. Then I come in and I fold over the edges this way to see if I've got it where I want it. On all the sides. You can come in here and count your lines. So from this bat, or actually I'm going to go from the tree. From the tree I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on this side from the tree I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is wrapped around. So that's pretty good. And that's how I do it. And then from here, what do you think? Is it straight? I'm going to call it straight. Now, one thing that you could do is bring your seam roller and come and give this a press. I'm going to step over to the iron real quick and press on that edge. doesn't do a lot, but it kind of gives me a little bit of an edge to press. Okay, there we go. And see, since I have that adhesive on there, I can kind of smush that in and get it to stay so when I flip it over, it's not moving all over the place. All right, here we go, guys. Let's give it a whirl. Same way. But see, look, I got little itty bitty spot down here because I tried to keep, you know, get it where I wanted it on the fabric. Normally, I like to have at least this much, like 1.5 to 2 inches around the edge. But this is live, and this is how we do. So roll with me, and let's find out if it worked. I'm just going to put a tiny, tiny bit in the corner like this, and then push it in. Now this corner, you can see we're doing like that. See how this is like longer here? Because we have just a itty bitty little area. So we're gonna work with it. It's gonna work. Okay. Now I got my corners down, but I'm still gonna do a little bit more of a double check. So let me hold this up and make sure. One more time. That's it, I'm going with it. Let's go with this side first. All right, I'm gonna have to put a line of glue right up there along the edge because I didn't leave myself much space. Okay. We might have to redo that. I'm gonna have to get this side over a little bit more. Oh goodness. Bear with me. Okay, you want to see? All right, might as well go with it. So I want to get this I've glued down, but I need to move it up a little bit because it's off on just this one area. So I'm going to take my glue gun and heat that spot back up because I got to pull it back away from the thing. So once I heat it up a little bit, it makes it a little easier to pull that back away so I can make an adjustment. And now I'll just make my adjustment. It was kind of going uphill just a little bit. And that's because I didn't leave myself enough space. So definitely give yourself a couple inches around the board for sticking this on. So do what I say, not what I do on that one, right, guys? Or if you find yourself in the position like I just did, well, that's what you do. You wing it till it works. Well, maybe I got it all messed up again. We're getting there. So what do you think? If I got it crooked, or is it it's hard to look through the camera and do this at the same time. So it may not be perfect, but we're gonna keep moving forward. Okay, we're gonna go with that. And then again, okay, thanks guys. I know, you're like, just do it already. Trust me, I feel the same way sometimes. Just do it. Just do it. Get it glued down. There. Okay, now we're going to keep going the same process we did with the fabric, where we glued the one side down and then the other, and now the ends. This may be too much glue, but and then put it back in the corner, a little too much glue, and squish it in there. One corner. I'm thinking about maybe adding some rickrack behind this. What do you think? Should there be rickrack or just the stitch on the board? Pretty good. This particular fabric, it is 14 count Aida, and it is, I think it's called Parchment from Fabric Flair. Fabric Flair is something I've been using a little bit more of lately, and I like it a lot. I love to stitch on it. It's very soft. It's easy to hold in your hands. However, when you get ready to do this part of it, it's thick. It is a thick fabric. And so I have found that it's a little bit harder to get your corners just nice and crisp because of how thick the fabric is. So you have to do a little more manipulating and a little more finger vise on that. And that's why these corners are kind of up a little bit like that too, because of that. Because can you see how thick the fabric is in that shot? It's a thicker, the Luganas are a little thinner, a little easier to fold. Linens, of course, are super, super easy to fold and glue. And other Aidas are not as thick. It's just this particular Aida is kind of thick. Okay, there we go. There's our corners, which I feel like we got them looking good on this side. This side, you can tell. Ooh, see? It's kind of like the back of my stitching too. Haha. And then that will go on that. Oh my gosh, I love it. Now I'm putting mine on the other boards because I already had this one ready to go. This one I can do for another project. So this one is going to go here. And now, the moment of truth. Should we add the rickrack or just glue it down? Anybody's opinion on that? I don't even know what color rickrack you would put behind there, or some pom-poms. Options include gray. This bag came from Primrose. This is, to give you an idea, of a bag of one of those bags they send out that they offer with ribbons and rickracks. Just glue. Add some trims. Orange. I'm getting orange. I've got just a tiny orange. The white is a little wider. Let's look at the orange. I've got some pom-pom too, but I think I'm more into, I like the dull tones of this. I don't know if this is going to be enough. Is that showing enough? Oh, that's maybe just right. Kind of precious. Just glue, no rickrack. Okay, we're gonna just glue. So to glue this down, got our piece here. We're gonna put a bunch of glue on the back and center it and glue it down. Got a bump right there. Okay, here we go. Just glue. We can always add rickrack too if we want to. Put a little glue here. And this is a longer piece, so you got to move quick on this because the glue dries up quick. I like to go ahead and put it all along the edge. I'm going to leave it out in the middle. We're going to eyeball it and stick it on there. Do some finger measuring. So that means that like I put a finger on this side, a finger on this side, and down we go. It's done. And now this is a stand. This slides in here. And there it is. So that will set up on the shelf. It could have some rickrack, it could have some pom, but I wanted you to see how it turns out, the scale, the size, all of the things. And this is Tiny Town Halloween finished on our new shelf sitter. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and going through the process. I will post this, so if you're here on the replay, thanks again. And I'm also going to add those links below. That's how it's going to stand. Can't see it from here, but anyway. Thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon. I'll be back on Friday at 2 o'clock.